Tim, it's great to have a chance to catch up with you again. We've certainly chatted a number of times over the years, and in your role, your past life, I guess you could say, with Ag Infotech, and now your current role and responsibility with Raven Autonomy. And good to see you. Just wanted to start out asking you, what's life been like for the last month, 2 months for you and your team there?
Well, it's good to see you too, Jack. So appreciate you reaching out. And life's definitely been a little different. I'm used to traveling and being out with the dealers a lot now for the last year and a half since I left Ag Infotech. And basically the last 2 months we haven't been able to travel. And Dan Rikus, our CEO at Raven, he actually had us stop traveling before any travel bans were put in place. I want to commend him for kind of looking out for the health and well-being of the customers or the team members, as well as the business. And but he decided that it was in our best interest if we didn't travel early on. So it's been about 2 months since we've been at home. Definitely kind of weird, getting used to a lot more Teams meetings. That's one thing I've got to say, our IT department really had us prepared for this type of work environment. Pretty much everybody that has a laptop had Teams installed on it from Microsoft, and they had the security in place, and everything seems to just work very well through that system. And if we didn't have all that in place and had to scramble at the last minute to get everybody set up to where we could work together and work collaboratively from home, it would have been a lot more difficult of a challenge.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned, kind of being at home off the road now for a couple of months. How difficult has that been? Certainly, in your position and obviously with Raven Autonomy and all that's kind of developed in that side of the business there. I got to imagine, kind of that face-to-face, that customer communication, dealer interaction is pretty important.
It's extremely important. And as good as the technology is for video conferences, it's still, in my opinion, just second to actually being there. Nothing is as good as being on site and talking with a grower, talking with a dealer. We've had video conferences with potential customers. We've had video conferences with a lot of the dealers, and it's just not the same as it would be if you were there in person. But that being said, everybody's kind of in the same boat. Everybody understands. So we're all pushing through it and working with what we have been dealt. It's definitely made things a lot more difficult. Not only are we coming out with a new product, which Raven comes out with new products all the time, but we're coming out with a whole new concept, which is this autonomous technology, which is driverless equipment. And to really be able to get people excited about autonomy, they have to see it in action, in my opinion. And that's one of the biggest things that we're lacking right now, is being able to bring people to events to see our systems run and see them perform before we go and try to sell them. So.
Well, you mentioned obviously kind of the show and tell element, particularly with autonomy. I mean, there's clearly kind of a wow factor that comes with seeing that live, in a demonstration. How have you guys kind of, worked around that when you're having those calls and interactions with customers and dealers, to kind of still get that message across, kind of make them understand the value, the potential there?
Well, as far as like with the DOT platform, we had a demo scheduled and we had to cancel that. So what we're trying to do is just in some of the meetings that we have with growers, we're showing the video that we do have of it. For Smart Ag equipment, the auto cart side, we're going to have a live demo at our dealer event in June. We have since basically changed that to a virtual event. So one of the things that we're looking towards is trying to mount some cameras in the system and doing a live feed of starting the system up from scratch, from when it's cold. Let people see how long it takes to, boot up and be ready to actually go, create the mission for it, send it out into the field, and then just have that system running all day long on a live feed that people can tune into and look at, just so it would be as close to normal view, as being there as possible. But we want to make sure that it's feed that is uninterrupted and they can watch it, see it work, and not something that's pieced together and edited where, if it did stop, they'll say, oh, well, it probably stopped and they just ended the video there. We want to make sure that, it's full and they can see the thing running. So we're trying to figure out how to do that. We're working with a marketing company to help us come up with this virtual meeting, and we're going to try to do our virtual meeting over a 3-day window so that you're not sitting in front of a screen and a computer and on a Zoom meeting all day. So we're going to try to break some of that up. We're feeling like a lot of these travel restrictions will probably be reduced here in the near future in a lot of the states. So we plan on doing a lot of one-on-one training as we install the system. So we're going to send people from Raven out to actually install the system and train the dealer there versus training them in one location at Sioux Falls. So those are a couple of the things that we're looking at. And we assume at the initial reopening of a lot of these states, there's still going to be that 10-person limit. So for a gathering. So we're thinking that, this one-on-one training will be about ideal for that. We can just go to one dealer and kind of train them, work with the grower, and, maintain our distance, but yet be there for the dealer for training. And because life goes on, we've got a crop that people are working frantically to get planted, and, farmers are going to farm. So.
Absolutely. Well, and you mentioned the fact that certainly Raven and other companies. I mean, product introductions are nothing new. But the fact that this is a systematic change, something very different, and certainly there had been some momentum that was building when we're talking about autonomy and the interest there. Talk a little bit about, I guess the challenges now, obviously of kind of the difficulties, in being able to have that in-person, demonstration, and certainly from your perspective, with a product development standpoint, are there, I guess maybe not setbacks, but just things that you guys certainly have been building toward that now you've had to, maybe deviate from or find an alternative path to kind of progressing some of the developments that you guys are bringing to market?
Well, one of the biggest things is the alpha testing. We had 3 alpha testing sites, one at Sioux Falls, which is real easy for people to get to and still continue to do their testing there. But we had 2 remote sites, one in Arizona and one in California. The nice thing about that is their winters are pretty mild and they can run all winter. So they were, doing testing up until this happened, and then we pulled everybody back. But it was kind of neat. One of the guys that kind of heads up our product support team, Blake Welch, for Autonomy, he decided that this beta site in California was out in the middle of nowhere. It's on a farm. You and I were actually out to Tulare together, so it's not too far from Tulare, and there's really not a whole lot out there other than farmland. The farmer said, "Sure, we can rent you a camper." And, so the company rented a camper. Blake and his family decided to just drive out. They drove straight through, got out there. They've been living in the camper for the last month, just having a ball. But Blake has been testing every single day. And the neat thing is, he doesn't have to fly back to his family. And like he said, I feel so much safer with my family out here on this farm with no one around than I did in the middle of Ames. So, him and his wife discussed it. They prayed about it and decided this is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and go out there. So that's just one of the neat ways to work around it. So we still have 2 alpha sites up and running and testing the equipment every day. So it's kind of neat to see how people come together and pull together to overcome some of these challenges.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's I think that's thinking pretty creatively. With the innovation, like you said, I mean, obviously there's still work to be done. Advancements, testing that needs to be accomplished. Certainly, within this area. So it's a good story about finding a way to keep moving forward and still kind of accommodating the climate that we're living in. So, kind of thinking about, where things are going to go and maybe even opportunities, if we're talking about the next few months. Now, you mentioned obviously the plan here is to hopefully when things loosen up a little bit to be able to hold those, smaller gatherings, demonstrations. What other opportunities do you see out of this? Because, it does seem that, when we're thinking about autonomy and kind of, driverless vehicles, particularly in ag, that, that almost kind of is a natural, fit into the, kind of quote unquote social distancing philosophy and the fact that you don't have to have people out there necessarily, interacting in the field, and you can do a lot of that from a distance. Is that something that you think is going to create opportunities, moving forward, or be a driver in a certain extent?
I definitely think this shows us the need for autonomy in ag. A lot of the people that are helping farmers, because at least in the Midwest, I can't speak for all of the U.S., but in the Midwest, our main time is planting and harvest. Now, so spring and fall, month and a half in the spring, month and a half in the fall is when you need somebody. So it's not really conducive to hiring a full-time person. So you get a lot of part-time people, and a lot of those part-time people would be considered in that at-risk group for COVID because they're older, probably retired, might have, an underlying condition, but yet they can get in the tractor and drive, but they might not want to risk themselves by going out right now. So we're seeing a lot of farmers are telling us that some of the labor pool that they did have in place is not wanting to come out during this time to help. So I think that creates a little bit of an awareness of, hey, this labor pool that we've relied on is getting older. There's less and less people that are connected to agriculture that when they retire, they just want to retire and don't really want to come back and work on the farm. So I think there's definitely an opportunity there. Another thing that we had planned on was doing a lot of farm shows and doing live events at farm shows. I do feel some of those are in jeopardy. I don't know of anything that has really been canceled yet, but I would have to think that some of the larger farm shows are going to be in jeopardy this summer. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But one of the things that we're trying to do is we implemented a dealer demo program where we want every dealer to basically buy a demo system, and we gave it to them at a pretty good discount so that people can see it, because this technology is something that people have to see. So because of those farm shows possibly being canceled, we've decided to do a lot of dealer events with their demo system. And instead of maybe inviting a whole big group in and just doing it all in one day, let's do it over 2 or 3 days and invite several groups of 10 or less people to come in. And I think they'll probably get a more intimate experience that way than we would if we just have one big event where we had 100 people. So I think there's a definite positive that could come out of that, and I know they'll get a better experience than they would going to a farm show and seeing it run in a kind of an intimate setting like that. So That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to come up with a roadshow for DOT and a roadshow for Smart Ag as well. So the DOT's going to be a little harder because of transportation, but the Smart Ag, we're going to have some systems strategically placed at our dealers' locations, and it'll make it a lot easier to do.
Perfect. I'm wondering if you could kind of share a little bit about the evolution or the expansion of your dealer network at this point. And I know we had the chance to talk last summer at the Farm Progress Show, and I know at that point, you were pretty new to the company, and you guys were starting to put people on board and grow that network of dealers that you guys were working with. But it was curious, where you guys are today, how that's developed to this point.
So right now, currently we have 22 dealers. So I think when we talked last summer, we were around 14 or 15, something like that. So we're continuing to bring new dealers on. We're wanting to bring on probably another 10 or so. That's one thing. This virus has kind of stopped or slowed down that hunt for new dealers, because I've talked to a couple potential new dealers via online. We've actually signed one up, but without being able to do site visits and really get to know them and get to talk to some of the customers and make sure that we're choosing the right dealer, it's kind of put some of that on hold for us till we can do some site visits and really examine whether that would be a good fit for us, or if we would be a good fit for them, and for that matter. So that slowed that process down. But one of the things we want to make sure is that we don't place dealers right on top of other dealers, because that, in my opinion, kind of hurts the brand and hurts the dealer when you put another dealer right on top of the other one, because then they're competing for that same sale. That's when prices start to basically margins start to erode, and you don't get the full effect and the full attention of that dealer when they're put in that kind of situation, because they're going to focus on something that they have that's unique. And we want to make sure our dealers focus on our product line. They come to all our trainings. They know it inside and out. So if there is a problem for that customer, they can fix it right away. And that's going to be key for Raven Autonomy or any autonomous product, is you're going to have a dealer that understands it, knows how to fix it, and keep that farmer up and running. And I'm afraid that if you have too many dealers in an area and this becomes such a small part of their core, they're not going to know it as well as if it's a core product. So
absolutely. And then you brought up a good point there about the fact that it's a two-way street there. Obviously, with the dealers, you want to be involved here selling the product. It's a unique system, something new. Certainly that dealers may not be familiar with, and you want to be familiar with that dealership. Versus maybe something that is either similar or a variation of a product that might be on the market already. So I can imagine having that more extended discussion, the demonstration time is pretty critical to finding those right partners if they're interested, and certainly if it's a good fit for Raven Autonomy.
Definitely. So that's one thing that has definitely slowed us down a little.
Perfect. Well, Tim, I didn't really have anything else. I mean, like I said, I didn't want to take up too much of your time here. I just wanted to kind of go over a few things and, talk a little bit about the present and kind of, looking a little bit into the future. I know it's probably hard to, pull out too much of a crystal ball here to look too far down the road, but, anything longer term that, you're looking at either with your team or within the company that you wanted to share?
Well, one thing I've been worried about since this started is it'll never be the same. And I have kind of thought about that in a negative connotation. And there's a couple things that might be positive that come out of this. And one is I think that it's going to show that a lot of people that work-life balance is crucial and it's key. And hopefully this has brought families back together again. And hopefully that can live on and continue to bring families a little closer. Another thing that it's really kind of brought up to me, and I was very guilty of this, is a lot of times we felt it was heroic to come to work, even if you're sick, and get the job done. And our CEO, Dan Reich, has kind of mentioned this yesterday or the day before, and I've been thinking about it a lot. And because I was pretty guilty of that. I would go and and hopefully it'll be a little more accepted by business owners or business managers and by employees that if you're sick, stay home, don't spread it, don't give it to the team, because the business, your customers, and yourself will be better off if you do stay home if you're sick. So those are a couple things that I hope, positive things that I hope that come out of this long term. I know that's not a huge, big philosophic answer, but that's the short little Tim Norris answers I can give you right there. So, but those are two of the things that I hope do change long term because of this situation. Another thing I think is the economy. You look at the Great Depression and what it had, the effect it had on the economy, and then you look at the rapid growth that came after that. So it's my hope once this clears up that we'll have rapid growth again. And I feel we will, and I think that's something that we can hopefully look forward to as well. So,
excellent. Tim, I always appreciate the comments and the insight. I think that's a good perspective to kind of finish on there. Like you said, looking at the potential positives. I know a few other dealers I've talked to have kind of tried to find that silver lining as well. What are some of the, maybe the benefits that maybe not realized right now, but could be, down the road, some takeaways. And, so that's a good perspective. And I had a chance to talk to Arlen Sorensen last week, and he kind of mentioned the fact that, in his mind, thinking about, the longer term and how there's going to be certain things that, the way business is done or had been done won't be done like that again, so you have to kind of adapt what you're doing now and think about that, because chances are, some of the things that, businesses were accustomed to, 6 months ago, may never come back. So, what do you do now to plan for that and make sure it's still going to be a benefit to your company? So,
well, I think this has proven that video conferences do work, and not every visit has to be drive across the country and see your dealers. There might be some more. And it might be more accepted to do some things over a video conference, which could make us more lean, more efficient, and then help everybody out economically in the long run. So that could be another positive, I think, yes, that comes out of it. And there's definitely going to be some long-term changes. So yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll have to see what those are as we continue to move forward here, but yeah. Well, Tim, always good to talk to you. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking time. Best to you, your family, everybody there. Hopefully you guys, get through the summer here, have an opportunity to get out and, interact and, get whatever sense of normalcy we can get nowadays.
All right. Well, awesome to talk to you again, Jack, as always. And thanks for reaching out.